Hey, Tony Gaskins here. Now I want to talk to you about this physical touch. And of course, these terms come from the 5 love languages just because it has become so permeating in our society and just kind of the language we speak in when we talking about love and relationships. But when it comes to physical touch, what you have to remember is a woman, on average, your wife needs to be touched. And the touch starts very early in the morning. And every time you pass your woman in the house, like in the kitchen, you should touch her. And you have to mix the touch up. And you got to think about the touch, and you have to be mindful of how you touch her. And it has to be respectful. And when I say respectful, understand that that's based on the couple, in the sense of you may be able to, depending on your wife's personality, you may be able to kind of give her like one of them little butt slaps, like one of the little taps. You might be able to reach around in the front and get your little cup, cup your little son. But that's when you have a certain relationship and rapport with your woman, and it's more so not necessarily sexy to her. It's kind of just like a little funny, like a little, where's stop, going somewhere, type of thing. But when you think about the touch, you really want to utilize this touch to be sensual. So rubbing the back of her neck and massaging her shoulders, and it doesn't have to be anything long, but just like a quick 5-second massage, like a firm massage on her shoulders. It just releases tension, and it's going to release happy chemicals into her bloodstream. Or putting your hands on her shoulders and leaning in and giving her a little kiss on the neck that she may or may not receive depending on how ticklish she is. And try to set a goal to touch your wife a minimum of 10 times a day, just so that she gets used to feeling your touch and feeling your hand. And unless she doesn't like it, and if she doesn't like it, then that's when you have to sit down and talk to her. Because if now it's perfect if she doesn't like to be touched and you don't like to touch, then y'all perfect. But if you really like to touch and she doesn't like to be touched, now you got to sit down and talk about it and see where is this rooted in her past. And that's where the communication comes in, and get into the root of things. And then you may identify some trauma that she's under, that she has. And in identifying this trauma, now you may see like, okay, does she need therapy or life coaching or something to help her decompress and release? And that's what you really want to think about and be mindful of on that side of things, because you want to make sure that y'all can find a happy medium, meet in the middle. And what you have to realize is that touch, it builds love. Every time you touch her, it's building love. Every time you touch her, she's falling deeper in love with you, because we don't touch each other as humans. So what separates you from any other man, and this is what you have to understand, when she goes to work and she goes out into the world, every man can talk to her. Every man can have a conversation with her. Every man can make her laugh. But what they cannot do out in public is they cannot touch her. They can't wrap their arms around her and hug her and embrace her. And when you hug her, don't just hug her. Don't give her no little church hug, or don't stop being tough and cool, and really wrap your arms around her. Hug her tightly. And when you squeeze her, then take your hands and take your fingers and put them in her back, and do a little massage ball machine for 5-10 seconds. And then when you pull back, you either kiss on the neck or you kiss on her lips. And when you kiss on her lips, everything don't have to be about sex. So you don't have to stick your tongue down her throat, but just make sure them lips really get all the way. You get all the way in between them lips, and you get you something good in there now, and get your little moisture. And so now you able to take and just kind of, what it's gonna do is, if you're not in the doghouse and you've been putting all this stuff together and you doing what you're supposed to do, it's gonna send chills down her spine. She's gonna get chills down her spine. She's gonna get chills on her arms. And because of that touch, that embrace. And so you got to touch her. You got to touch her because her body is not used to being touched on a regular. And physical touch gives life. If it's just like with a baby. If a baby is born and that baby is not touched, if a baby is born and that baby just lay there, that baby ain't gonna live longer than a week without being touched. That baby got to be touched. It have to feel that physical touch because it releases life-giving chemicals into that bloodstream. And we need, as humans, we need physical touch. And this is why you start to really see, and a lot of times you don't realize it, but this is why you see single people start to kind of lose their mind, or they start to get into stuff that they shouldn't get into. They get into fornication and situationships not because they want to, but because they need to. They feel they need physical touch, or they get into some type of, and what I recommend for singles who watching this is go get you a massage, just so that you getting physical touch, and it don't have to be about sexual or anything. So it could be with somebody of the same gender, but just so that you getting that physical touch and your bloodstream getting that release. And that way it's better to get a massage or to go to a stretch lab and get stretched, or Pilates personal trainer, whatever it is, just for that camaraderie, that companionship, that conversation. Go, hire a life coach where you can talk and you can just kind of dump things and talk through things and do all of that, because that way it'll give you that release that your brain needs, and you don't have to be in a situationship or in fornication or friends with benefits or into all of the filth, the nastiness. And so think about that. So now here you are as a husband, you have the opportunity to heal your wife, to complete your wife, to give her everything that she needs. And so what you have to understand is chemistry is real. So if you're not touching your wife and doing what you need to do, when she go to work and she's talking long conversations with another man, she can develop feelings for that man if she's not being touched, she's not being caressed, she's not being loved. But when she can still feel your massage on her back, on her neck, on her shoulders, when she can still feel the lingering tingle of your lips on her neck, your lips on her lips, when she talking to that man, she picturing you, she thinking about you. But if she's deprived, now she's gonna become depraved. And then that conversation gonna feed and fuel her on a whole nother level and for a whole nother reason. And then now, salon, nice little building. Ooh, gas station tore down. I ain't even realize that thing was out of what I needed, what I could turn that into. Come on now. And so now, that conversation she having, she like, whoa, okay, what we got going on? Now she going to feeling good, and she coming home and she on that phone a little bit too much. She's keeping her distance. She doing all this, and it's because she not receiving love. She not receiving the physical touch. So now she going somewhere else for that release, for that feeling, because she used to that feeling that you was giving her and the way you was treating her, and now that you treating her different, she still need that feeling. She need that release, that good conversation. And so she'll find somebody to replace you with, and you'll be sitting there and you like, you just living your life, you doing your thing, and not paying attention that, oh, you feeling complete because you got Angela. You dealing with Angela, you dealing with your little things on Instagram, Facebook, your little secret subscriptions. So you dealing with all that, you getting it all the way in. So now you're not paying her attention how you should be. And because you're not paying her attention how you should be, that right there start to cost your relationship. So realize and understand this now, and get this in your spirit. Get this in your spirit. And start to be very intentional with your physical touch. And I'm going to tell you, the physical touch doesn't always have to lead to something sexual. Now, if y'all both home, it's middle of the day, it's just y'all, and that physical touch lead to something, okay, great. Oh, well, all right. Let it do what it do. If it don't lead to nothing, then okay, it don't lead to nothing. At nighttime, it could lead to a little more. But you got to be intentional. You got to take your time, and you got to be mindful. So that way, her body starts to relax. She start to relax, and she start to desire you. And this is the mistake that a lot of men make, of trying to turn a woman on like a microwave instead of like an oven. And you have to understand that her body is different. So as a man, we could look at a woman and our body just, boom, it reacts. That thing go to standing up. A woman, on average, her body is different. She need more stimulation. So it's gonna have to be like conversation or physical touch or quality time. Like she's gonna need a little more. So in understanding that, you gotta move a little differently. Move a little differently, taking your time with her. So that way she warm up to you, and you gotta stop trying to do wham bam thank you ma'am like you dealing with a prostitute. Stop doing the wham bam thank you ma'am, and you got to take your time. And she'll tell you, she'll let you know, like, okay, hey, we ain't got all that much time, come on now, let's go. And then that save you 20 minutes. But you let her tell you that. When you go there, you going to try to do the most, and she let you, that means she want the most. So you go on, let your physical touch explore and take your time, and really, and you remember, this was started in the morning with that quick shoulder massage and that kiss on the neck and all of that right there. And what you got to understand is it need to be sensual, because it put her in the right type of headspace and mood to where she feel loved and she feel caressed. She feel like you gentle with her. Don't always, as a man, don't try to do everything like a man, like you walking up and you slapping her all up, all hard on the booty, or you just walking up and you just grabbing you a handful of cooter bow and you trying to just out of the nowhere just grabbing, shove fingers in places. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. She's not a barbarian. This your wife. Take your time. Treat her like a queen. And let her feel like that. And it's going to make a big difference. Hey, this is Tony Gaskin. God bless you. Hey, shout out to my supporters. Patreon, Blessed Tribe, Tony Gaskin Family Foundation, donors. I really appreciate you. I put the important links in the description box, so check those. Thank you so much for everything that you do for me and being here rocking with me. God bless you. We'll talk soon.